What's going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer from Blue and Gold. Got a special guest, Ari Wasserman. You may know him from the Andy and Ari podcast. Andy Staples joined us a while back, and now we got Ari Wasserman. So the gang is together, and I wanted to get Ari on a YouTube video here to discuss some Notre Dame topics from the national point of view. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the channel, of course. For more content, head over to blueandgold.com for more coverage. Okay, Ari. Notre Dame starts the season with a bang, beating A&M on the road as an underdog, and then you lose as a 4-touchdown favorite at at home against NIU, and then you beat the doors off Purdue 66-7. What does someone in your from your standpoint, in your shoes, make of how Notre Dame started this season? Because it's been bizarre on my side of things.
Yeah, it's just been a bizarre start. I don't know how I would stack up like the competition level between NIU and Purdue. It's probably a lot closer than people think, and I probably can make the case that NIU is probably a better football team right now. But I thought that there should be a little bit less variance between those two results, right? I mean, like you scored 66 points or whatever it was, and I mean they at 50 at halftime of the game on Saturday, and then losing to NIU. It's difficult to kind of contextualize. What I can contextualize is that they have a really good roster. You know what I mean? And I thought coming into the year that Notre Dame was going to be a team that was the 5 seed, and I thought they were going to go undefeated because their schedule is fairly simple. And then they lose that game, and it's like puts you in an entire blender. It's not like they lost to Louisville or somebody like that. I mean, they lost to a team that they had no business losing to at home. And this is the third time that it's happened under Marcus Freeman. And the question isn't, is Notre Dame good, or is Notre Dame, do they have a good roster? Like, I think we know that they do. It's why are those types of losses happening? And I've been around a lot of big time college football in my life. And, you might lose a game like that once every 3, 4, 5 years. It's not supposed to be a trend. And I think that you're doing a bad job if your team is susceptible to those things for something other than just, not mentally being there. Like if your team is susceptible to losing those games because your roster stinks, that's a very hard problem to fix. Notre Dame's roster doesn't stink. So that's why I have a hard time with it. I'm inclined to think, without knowing why this is happening, that whatever is causing it is easily fixable in comparison to the other problem, which would be fixing a bad roster, which is really, really hard. So from that standpoint, I think it's good news. But from the other standpoint, it's like, how has this happened 3 times in 3 years? Like it's mind-blowing. So, the thing that I will say is Notre Dame fans probably felt pretty down about that, pretty down on the season. And I think that we need to snap out of it a little bit, because this is a new era of college football. And if this team runs the table or is 10-2 at the end of the year, they're going to have a really good shot at getting into this playoff. So, definitely concerning, definitely alarming, but not the death blow to their season.
Okay, let's talk about that, because that's where I wanted to go next. This was your CFP bubble watch. I love, Ari, that we have bracketology in college football. This is
fun to do. Yeah,
it is. It is. So you have, Ohio State as your 1, Texas 2. And people need to understand this is the 4 highest get the bye. It's the 4 highest ranked conference champions. It's not that he thinks that Kansas State's the number 4 team in the country. You got to
train people, because people don't understand it on Twitter. You'd be like, how is Kansas State ranked higher than Alabama and Mizzou and Georgia? It's like, guys, you got to get up. You got to get up with the rules, man, because this is what the new system shows us. But yes, keep going.
Yeah. So I mean, and yeah, folks can see it at the bottom there. But okay, so the first 4 out, you got Penn State, Utah, Clemson, Notre Dame. The group of 5, you're missing my alma mater, USF, but that's okay. So talk to me about Notre Dame in the first 4 out. You even said they could go 10-2 and still sneak their way in. That would probably be as like an 11, or who knows, maybe the 12.
I mean, it might be difficult for them to be 10-2 because they don't have a strong enough schedule to balance out the losses with incredible wins. And like the one thing that we've learned about the committee in the past is that they value really, really good wins more than they penalize you for bad losses. So that's the one tricky thing. And Notre Dame, I thought was in a really good position to get to the Final Four this year, because if they would have gone undefeated or lost by 1 to Louisville or something, they would have had a really good chance to be the 5 seed. If you go back and you look at last year's bracket, or last year's rankings that would have led into this bracket, every team outside of the top 12 had 3 losses, I think. So, like, we're not talking about, like, when you see first 4 out, people say Notre Dame lost to NIU. How the hell are they in this? This is bullshit. Like, everybody goes crazy because they think there's like some sort of Notre Dame bias. But if you do simple math and you see first 4 out in order there, that puts Notre Dame at like 16. Like, that's not high. Like, I mean, we're so trained to think that if you're in the playoff discussion, you're one of the elite programs, but it really does not. Your season has to go really, really off the rails to not be ranked 16th at the end of the year. So, like, Notre Dame's season is already in danger of going off the rails, but I do believe that they have a good enough team to win the rest of their games. Now, USC has gotten a little bit trickier, right? Like, that game isn't the way we perceived it at the beginning of the year when I made that prediction. We don't know exactly what Louisville is yet, but for the most part, Notre Dame is either going to be favored in all of the games or most of the games that they play for the rest of the year. We don't know what the spread's going to be when we're going to find out a lot about USC on Saturday when they play Michigan. But putting Notre Dame at 16 in December is not as crazy as people make it out to be.
Yeah. So going into the year is about the big 3 games. It was A&M, Florida State, USC. It seems like USC stock up. Florida State maybe just a little stock down, Ari.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a little bit. And then Louisville kind of being like Louisville and Georgia Tech kind of being like that next grouping. Georgia Tech, could be tricky in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And then Louisville, Notre Dame gets at home at the end of the month.
And they already got A&M in the bag. Like, and you can't look me in the eyes and tell me that NIU is a better football team than Texas A&M on the road.
Sure.
Like, you can't do it. So that's the thing that's so frustrating about this. And it's like, why and how does that happen? Like, I don't even know the answer to that. Like, why and how can that happen is what Marcus Freeman needs to be examining every single day. Because if it happens again next year, the guy could get fired over it. So, like, okay. I mean, I'm not starting the hot seat stuff. I don't think he's on the hot seat. I actually think that Marcus Freeman understands what needs to be done and has done a really good job at the hard part. The hard part is putting together a good roster. Like, that's the hardest part. Millie Napier is going to be fired at Florida this year because he can't put together a good roster at Florida. Like, he's already done that. So it's so tricky because it's so embarrassing to lose that game. But on the other hand, in this new system, it's not impossible for Notre Dame to run the table. And I think, like, the thing that I will say too is that their offensive line has taken a beating with some injuries. And I think that, like, losing your best offensive lineman before the year starts, and then what didn't they say that Craig's out for the year now? Or is he out for a long time?
Craig's out for the year. Billy Shrouth, the left guard, out for anywhere between like 2 and 6 weeks.
So yeah, so you're down 3 of your top 5 best linemen coming into the year, and if you're a pound it team, you need that. You need to protect your quarterback, but I still think they can win these games.
Yeah. You're right there with me, Ari, where I'm like, just the optimism and the pessimism with this Notre Dame football team. They're so they're happening at the same time for me. It's like, yeah, you have all your goals ahead of you still, but you have no completed passes with your starting quarterback through the air of 20 yards, if that makes sense, right? Like, maybe some short passes have gone for big gains, but like a pass in the air of over 20 yards completed, not one with Riley Leonard. So just real quick, Ari.
Yeah, I saw that stat too. I don't know if you just said that.
Yeah.
Because my mic went out for a minute, but like, I saw that the first touchdown reception for Notre Dame this year was a defensive end. Like, it's like a funny stat, but like,
it's bizarre.
If Chris Mitchell gets it going and Bo Collins get it going, like, they have pieces. Like, that's the thing that's so frustrating. They have the pieces.
So the future. I mean, if Notre Dame struggles this year, moving forward, they missed the playoff. Year 3, this was supposed to be the year. You got the quarterback. You selected another quarterback. You on paper did well in the portal. You mentioned Chris Mitchell. He hasn't really done anything yet. RJ Oben, your big transfer DN from Duke, he's done nothing. Bo Collins is a star, in my opinion. He's looking like receiver 1. Jordan Clark, though, from Arizona State, he's been playing really well. But anyway, year 3, this was supposed to be the big year. Next year, you're going to develop a young quarterback. Maybe it's Angeli, maybe it's like a CJ Carr, Kenny Minchie, a younger guy. You're rebuilding. You're playing with a lot of young guys next year. If they struggle this year, what's your outlook on the future of Marcus Freeman?
I mean, it's tough because coming into the year, the hype train was left the station. And, I do think that we are so early on in this transfer portal era that I have a hard time deciding whether or not I like the rent a quarterback strategy or if I'd want my 5-star developed guy. And they have both. So
Sure.
CJ Carr is supposed to be a star. I know they like Angeli a lot. So, we'll see then. But it's so hard to really you could sit here and 5 years ago be like, this is what Notre Dame's going to be next year. But it might not be what Notre Dame is next year. You can completely change your team with 5 acquisitions in the portal now. So my thought process is that Notre Dame would probably be one of the more attractive transfer destinations for a lot of people. My number one knock on this program, has been, and people think I hate them because I was very critical of their matchups against Alabama and some of the playoff appearances that they made, is that they don't have enough skill talent. They always have a really good running back. They always have great linemen. Their quarterback is usually pretty good, but they don't have anybody at the wideout position or a lot of times in the defensive backfield to keep up with the animals on the other side.
Correct.
Right? You need animals on your team. You need studs that are going to go out there and take it. And there's no separation on offense. It's hard to move the ball down the field. And in today's college football, even if you have a really good defense, they're probably going to give up 31 points to another really good offense. You need to be able to score. And Notre Dame has struggled with that. So my thing with Marcus Freeman is I can't judge next year yet because we don't know what next year is going to look like. And CJ Carr could be the next Heisman winner for all we know. I hope we get to see him at some point this season cook, because you can see young quarterbacks at other places are coming in and playing really well. It's not like this isn't 1990 where you need 4 years of development before you can play. Between the Elite 11 and the coaching that they have, they're very seasoned by the time they get to college. Nico, I'm going to the game against Oklahoma this week at Tennessee, Oklahoma. It's they've got 2 really young quarterbacks that are playing in undefeated matchups in an SEC game. So the rant is to say that I think I can, I'm okay with Marcus Freeman because he's done a good job with roster building. I do think that some of the 5 stars that they had in the fold that they lost hurt a little bit, but I like that he's trying. Brian Kelly wasn't necessarily a maniacal recruiter when he was there, and they have somebody who can connect to young kids and understands what it needs to look like having played at Ohio State and been around, high levels of football. I'm not ready to fire the guy. I don't think he's doing a bad job. I think he needs to get the ship on the right direction again this year. And by the way, they couldn't have bounced back in a more impressive way. When you're embarrassed the way that they were, they came back and dropped 66 and did it in a variety of different ways with defense, explosive offensive. I know it's Purdue, but they had a look about them that they were angry. That's a good sign that they're fighting for their coach. Have a good year this year and then go into the portal in the recruiting realm and kick ass. And I still think he could win this back. It's just, you got to figure out why your team keeps losing to bad teams, because it's not a physical thing. It's not a roster thing. It's a preparation culture thing that you're going to have to fix.
All right, folks, hit the thumbs up on this video. Let us know in the comments what you think about it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, of course, for more content. All right, thanks for joining. And folks, as always, we will catch you next time.